In 1986, Rodney Dangerfield was going back to college to party and deliver us one of the most celebrated comedies of the 1980s. In Back to School, Dangerfield plays Thornton Mellon, a businessman of a chain of clothing for large-framed people. When his son Jason tells him that he wants to drop out of college, Thornton talks him out of it and decides to enroll in college with his son, despite his much older age. Where one bribe later, and Thornton Mellon becomes the world's oldest college freshman, and brings his wacky crazy antics with him, which in turn makes this college campus a wild party. But it's not all fun and games, as Thornton learns that in order to pass and better himself and be a better father to his son, he has to try and take studying seriously. Now, if you can believe it, up until a few nights ago, I had actually never seen Back to School before, and I posted about that on social media, and everyone was like, "Dude, you're crazy! You're missing out! Go watch it! This is a crime against humanity!" So I did, and I loved it. They were right, I was really missing out. So it's time to do the Triple Lindy as we explore 10 things that you didn't know about Back to School, a movie of which until a few weeks ago I didn't even know about, so let's check it out. Number 10. A Ghostbuster was brought in to rewrite the script. Back to School had a number of writers working on the script, including Stephen Campman, who would go on to co-write Clifford, and PJ Torok V, who also co-wrote Real Genius. However, it seemed that something was lacking in the script and just needed that extra punch, so Harold Ramis was brought in to make rewrites. At that time, Ramis was a comedy force to be reckoned with, as he had previously worked on Animal House, Caddyshack, Stripes, Vacation, and Ghostbusters, so the movie was in good hands. One major plot element Ramis changed was making the character Thornton Mellon a very rich and successful businessman who made clothing for large-framed people. In the original script, Mellon was just a poor, down-on-his-luck guy. He didn't have all the luxuries and riches that we see the character have in the film. And so they felt it would be funnier if they made the character more successful, who was so rich he could literally buy his way into any kind of situation, hence going back to college. In fact, Rodney Dangerfield himself had to convince Orion Pictures, who were producing the movie, to delay the production in order for Ramis to make his rewrites. Number 9. Rodney entering the Dangerfield. Back to School came out at a time when Rodney Dangerfield was starting to make it big in the movie business. His style of comedy really caught on thanks to his witty, fast-thinking quips and dry, sarcastic outlooks, with Back to School being his second movie as a leading actor. Dangerfield started as a stand-up comic who made it big in the Las Vegas scene, where he would then progress to television, particularly on talk shows, where in 1971 he would star in his first feature film, The Projectionist. Jump 9 years later, and he really made it big and got everyone's attention for his supporting role in Caddyshack, where he played Al, a rich, larger-than-life, quirky golfer. In fact, Al is very similar to Thornton in Back to School. It's like someone said, hey, what if that character Al from Caddyshack went to college? Boom, there's your movie. After Caddyshack, Dangerfield then made Easy Money, which he also co-wrote, which in turn would then lead to Back to School. Sadly, after Back to School, the next big Rodney Dangerfield project was the animated movie Rover Dangerfield in 1991. But sadly, that one didn't really go down too well. Incidentally, when I watched Back to School to prepare for this video, I noticed in the still images used for the movie's title sequence, we even see a photo of Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack. This confirms it. Al from Caddyshack and Thornton Mellon from Back to School are one and the same. Number 8. The production originally wanted Jim Carrey to star in the movie. So it's here we get to the character, Professor Turges, the delightfully over-the-top, screamy, shouty history teacher, played with menacing delight by Sam Kinison. Producers originally wanted Jim Carrey in the role, who, like Dangerfield and Kinison, was also a stand-up comic who was just breaking into movies at that time, having previously starred in the movie Once Bitten 1 year prior. However, it was felt that Carrey just would have seemed too young to play a college professor. So, Sam Kinison it was. The only other larger-than-life presence in the movie that could match Rodney Dangerfield. Number 7. For Estelle. So when it came to filming, the University of Wisconsin-Madison was used as the fictional Grand Lakes University, with additional filming at University of Southern California and California State University. The diving scenes, however, were filmed at an Industry Hills Aquatic Club in the city of Industry, California, which has since been demolished. And the character Diane Turner's house was the same house the Laurie Strode character got terrorized by Michael Myers in the original Halloween. The movie was directed by Alan Mehta, who 1 year prior directed Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, and several years later would go on to direct Police Academy Mission to Moscow, the one where the cops go to Moscow. Back to School was also produced by Chuck Russell, who the next year really hit strides by directing A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and would also go on to direct the Blob remake and The Mask. At the start of the movie's end credits, there is some text that reads, "For Estelle, thanks for so much." This person in question was Estelle Endler, who was an executive producer on Back to School, as well as being Rodney Dangerfield's longtime manager. In fact, she got him the job to star in Caddyshack. And sadly, she passed away during Back to School's production, so the movie was dedicated to her. Number 6. William Zabka wanted to break away from his Johnny Lawrence image. So Back to School features an impressive main cast, including Keith Gordon as Thornton's son, Jason, Ned Beatty as Dean Martin, get it, Dean Martin, Burt Young as Lou, Thornton's security, Sally Kellerman as Diane, and Robert Downey Jr. with an amazing display of 80s hair. I mean, seriously, look at that hair, that is quite amazing. But along comes William Zabka to star in the movie as the bully Chaz, who has his own display of amazing 80s hair. Look at that do! It's majestic! This really is a battle of the 80s hair. Without a doubt, Zabka was hired because he previously played the memorable bully Johnny Lawrence from The Karate Kid 2 years earlier, but Zabka felt that he was being typecast and was sick of playing unlikable jerks. So he tried to inject more likability into the character of Chaz, and to make him a bit more of a comical goofball, rather than just being a straight up nasty piece of work. Zabka really wanted to be funny. He felt that he was starring in a comedy, so it was time to be funny. In fact, apparently on one occasion, the director, Alan Mehta, pulled Zabka aside and basically told him, "You're being too funny and likable. Can't you just go back to playing that mean kid you played in The Karate Kid? Yeah, look, just do that all over again, please." Zabka would also claim that a lot of the scenes where he was being funny were actually cut from the final film. Speaking of deleted material, remember that scene where the Diane character leaves the party in disgust after finding Thornton in a hot tub with the college girls? There must have been some cut scene afterwards, because in the movie, the next time we see them together, they're all lovey-dovey again. No explanation, no apologies, just nothing. Number 5. Robert Downey Jr. also had his own issues with filming. As with most of the cast, Robert Downey Jr. starred in Back to School at a time when his career was really starting to take off, having starred in Weird Science just 1 year prior. However, Downey Jr. may have bitten off more than he could chew, as at the time of filming, he was also a cast regular on Saturday Night Live. This meant that every couple of days he'll be constantly flying from Los Angeles to New York, so he could film both Back to School and Saturday Night Live, which in turn would lead him to get burnout, with Downey Jr. referring to himself at that time as a tired young man. Regardless though, I still feel like he injects a lot of energy into Back to School. Hey, I guess it's good to be young. And Robert Downey Jr. wasn't the only person to make the move from Weird Science to Back to School. Number 4. The music of Back to School is music. The music of Back to School was scored by the legendary Danny Elfman, who, like I've said many times now in this video, was breaking out into movies at that time. Seriously, it seems that all the talent involved in this movie were people who were just starting to really take off, who would all go on to have amazing careers. Elfman already had dabbled into scoring movies, as a few years earlier he also scored Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and a few years after Back to School would also score the music for Beetlejuice and then Batman, and the rest was history. However, at the time of making Back to School, Elfman was no doubt best known for his new wave band Oingo Boingo, who also provided the main song for the as-mentioned Weird Science. In fact, Oingo Boingo themselves even turn up in the movie, where the band is performing at Thornton's college party, where you can see Elfman and his band members bringing their A-grade energy to their performances, to show us why the band was so popular back in the day. Seriously though, if I was throwing a party, I would totes get Oingo Boingo to perform at that party. That'll be ace. Number 3, Rodney Dangerfield really liked blue robes. Now here's some interesting information I got from an article from Mental Floss. By accounts, behind the scenes, Rodney Dangerfield apparently spent most of his time walking around in a blue robe. Co-star Sally Kellerman noted that she felt that Dangerfield was actually quite a serious guy on the set. Like he took the job very seriously, and that every night he'll be working on the script and adding notes while in his blue robe. William Zabka bumped into Dangerfield at the elevator of the hotel where the cast and crew was staying, and of course Dangerfield was in his blue robe. Zabka asked him why he's in his robe, to which Dangerfield replied, because he has to get to a sauna to get all the pot out of his lungs. Look, maybe it was just a really cozy robe, and Dangerfield just really loved wearing the damn thing. And so he chose comfort and just wore it the whole time on the set. But yeah, apparently while making the movie, he'd always be walking around in that robe. In fact, upon doing a deep dive into Rodney Dangerfield's robe-wearing ways, there are actually tons of photos of Dangerfield throughout his life where he's wearing robes. So, I guess he was just a robe-wearing kind of guy. Boy, did I go down a weird rabbit hole on that one. I guess he should have changed his name to Rodney Dangerfield. Am I right? And this picture you're currently looking at now, think yourselves lucky that I cropped it, because, how do I say this? His Dangerfields were totally hanging out. Yep, dude was totally on another level of comfort when he was wearing his robes, and it seems that on some occasions he was just letting it all hang out. Oh god, you gotta love Rodney Dangerfield. In addition to that, apparently Robert Downey Jr. and William Zabka really got along while making Back to School. So much so they would make music in Downey Jr.'s hotel room, with Downey Jr. on the keyboards and Zabka playing the guitar. But sadly, to the best of my knowledge, their band never really took off. And they would also watch movies too, and ponder as to why Christopher Walken was such a genius. As you do, I guess. By the way, off subject here, which movie poster do you prefer? The one with Dangerfield in his graduation robes, or this more illustrated Caddyshack looking poster? Personally, I prefer the illustrated poster, as to me it just looks more interesting, but that's just me. Which poster do you prefer? Number 2, everyone was suing each other. Okay, so here's another interesting piece of information I got from Mental Floss. That Back to School led to a lot of lawsuits. Yeah, don't you just love it when all that legal stuff gets involved in creativity? Ugh. Okay, so here goes. Firstly, a husband and wife screenwriting team sued Orion Pictures because they felt that Back to School was a rip-off of their script called Second Season, which incidentally they submitted to Orion Pictures in 1979. Director Alan Mehta joined in and also sued Orion as well, because he felt that he was not fully paid all funds that were owed to him for directing Back to School. So then Rodney Dangerfield sued Alan Mehta for suing without reasonable cause. Then the casting director of Back to School sued the producers of the film, as once again she felt that she was not fully paid and didn't get any screen credit. Yep, Back to School may have been a funny movie, but behind the scenes, everyone was pissed off and suing each other. Damn. It seems that hardly anyone made it out of this movie alive without being taken to court. I'm kind of scared about making this video, because how do I know that I won't get sued? Number 1. Back to School was a hit. Back to School was released in June 1986, and it was very financially successful, with it making just over $91 million on its $11 million budget. It would become the 6th highest grossing movie of 1986, and the 2nd highest comedy after Crocodile Dundee. Although Wikipedia adds that if you take into account the home video sales, Back to School made closer to $108 million. Back to School also got very positive reviews from critics, with Dangerfield's performance in the movie particularly being praised. And it's true, his wit, comedic timing, and energy really brings the movie to life in a magical way. He just has a rhythm about him in this movie which really enhances it. Now, the plot of an over-the-hill middle-aged man going to college should be ridiculous, by theory, but Dangerfield brings so much fun and energy, like he's the ultimate party guy, so I can buy him being the big popular student on campus and everyone loving him. But above all, the movie has heart. Amongst all the yellow wells, there is a very positive message of it's never too late to go back and make positive changes in your life and to be a better person, and that although it may be hard work, ultimately it will pay off. Thornton Mellon is a likable character. He cares about his kid, he's a successful businessman, and just wants to throw a good party and for everyone else around him to have fun. But he still manages to better himself and graduate to the next stages of life. Back to School truly is a brilliant, heartfelt, outrageous comedy. I think that Rodney Dangerfield just had funny bones and was naturally a really funny guy. He also had very striking eyes too, didn't he? Anyone else notice just how striking his eyes are? I don't think I've seen anyone else with eyes like that. So yeah, go see Back to School again. There are worse things that you could be watching. Anyway, I'm Minty, and remember, the best part about kids is making them. See ya!